it really doesn't matter the teacher that you choose, the principles, the workshop. If you do these basics, it will transform your life because you'll take it into listening to that teacher, occupying that workshop, trying to accumulate millions. Whatever it is, listening to Neville's teaching or one of the other teachers out there, these are great people out there teaching a lot of good stuff. But if you're not applying it, all of it's going to elude you. Would you agree?
Absolutely. See, the thing of it is, people don't realize this is a virtual reality. Our scripture calls it shadow world. It's only a shadow of what reality is. It's only just a flash of what reality is. So that's why you're told that not to be of the world, but to just be in the world and feel after for yourself, because you can do so. See, then that's what stops everybody. They say, can't imagine anything. Well, you got here tonight, so I mean, you use the same imagination the rest of us used to get here. So you can use it, but you just have to train yourself to use it better. Isn't that it?
It is it. You know, we're going back to imagination. We asked the question earlier, was imagination your heaven or your hell? And that's what you have to decide. What are you going to, as the individual, give your attention to? Because as Mr. Lindell has so often said, you're given to choose. And depending upon what it is that you choose will certainly determine your life. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Well, absolutely. Because what does it say in Scripture? As you think you are. That if you sit down and settle on that, if you get that straight in your head, you'll do magnificent things. I'll tell you, because that's the key. Feelingly, it's in fact Neville wrote a book, "Feeling is the Secret," and man, I tell you, it just like knocked me backwards as I was reading it, because it actually explained to me things I knew about, but could not actually wrap my feelings around it. But the way he explained it, I just melted right into it. Attitude, attitude, attitude. That's what it's all about. What are your attitudes? Not why you have them as you have them, but if they're not lovely and of a good report, drop them. Drop it. That's what you're told. Drop it. Turn to something different. I mean, actually, if more people had hobbies or something where they can get away from the world for a little while, it helps. But actually, the best thing to do is just go sit in a silence. Really, that's where the magic is, isn't it?
It is in the silence. You know, it was nice that you said, you know, people had hobbies. Of course, that would help. But the biggest thing was the second thing you said was going and sitting in the silence. I know that that's not common for most of us because most of us have attention deficit disorders, and we don't even know that we have them because we can't go a few moments without our smartphone, our smart device, our computers, you know, TV, whatever. We can't shut it off because we really get agitated with not having some type of sound in the background or seeing something in front of us. So we know that what we're asking you is a challenge, but the payoff is beyond what you can ask, think, or imagine. Would you agree?
Yes. You know, yeah. You said they can't turn it off, but the thing of it is, they can if they want to. That's where it is. You have to decide what it is that you actually want and picture it in your mind. And as you're picturing it in your mind, you see you actually doing, being, and having in it that dream. Because this is a dream. We're told dream the dream. And actually, most people do just daydreaming. But that's not actually enough. That's a good start, though, because you kind of sign in on what you would like to have, and that's the idea. And then just build on it and build on it, because what has your attention has your life. And if you're building on your chosen desire, then that's when you'll get it, because you're asking, and you're asking, believing, because you're doing it in mind, in imagination. That's what you're doing. You're showing up, and that's what you need to do. Show up. Wouldn't you say?
I would say, and speaking of showing up, we're talking about heaven. What is heaven? Most great people had a moment or a time of day that they entered into the silence. You discover heaven in those moments when you're entering the silence. And what you found about Jesus, that he would often break away from the crowd to spend time with Father. It was important enough for the writers of Scripture to note that Jesus took time apart and separated himself from the noise without. Would you agree?
Absolutely. He had the same problem you had, paying attention. Because if he got among the people there all the time, he'd never be able to center himself as he would alone. And so it's like feeding yourself again and again to have more energy. Well, he has to keep feeding himself God, because he tells you right off, he of himself can do nothing. That it is the Father within who does all the work. So you don't have any work to do. All you're told to do is to choose. You see, this is a psychological drama, this play of humanity, because it is as within, so without. And what would be as within is as you think you are. And so you're in charge even if you're not in control. The idea is to take control and be in charge and be the one who's directing your own self-talk through your dream, your mission, your goal. If you're doing that, then you have it. If you're not doing that, then you have what you are thinking about. And that probably won't be better. You say so.
I would. And as you were speaking, I thought about, again, going back to the quiet time with God. And that's going to be some of the most intimate experiences that you'll ever have in this realm of reality, because human beings can't fulfill the void that God has left of himself within each of us. Would you agree?
Actually, I got by with that for a long time, years. That's the reason why it took me years, because I was getting along on, I know about that. But knowing from it, see, you have to show up to know from it. You can't think about it. You have to think from it. And it's what you're thinking from is what you're experiencing. And if what you're thinking from is not giving you the experiences you want, then think about what you're thinking about. I mean, really, feel after you in a better position than you're in right now, and stick with it. Stand and see the victory, because as long as you stick with it, it's yours. I mean, that's it. He told you to just stand and see the victory. It's with you, but you have to show up to claim it, and that's what you're doing. You're claiming all the time. But claiming what? Is it what you want or what you don't want? See, if you're telling somebody else about things that's really bugging you, well, hey, that's what you're doing. You're sowing it again. So something else will bug you if it isn't exactly that, but you got to keep that feeling going, because it excites you in some way. Otherwise, you drop it immediately. See, you're your own worst enemy. I know, because, like I said, Pogo City, he hit me right where I live, because he said, I found the enemy, and he is I, and so did I, and so will you. You'll find that you've been in charge all along, but you haven't taken charge, and you're given to do so. So do so and see so for yourself so, right?
Agreed. And so in saying that, be so, do so for yourself so you know so, how does the individual get on the path of being.
How would he do it?
Yes.
Well, you're on the path. You're thinking all the time. You're on the path. Which way are you going? Are you going negative or are you going positive? You're going left, you're going right? What? You're on all the time. If you would only monitor your own self-talk, you'd know where you are, what you're doing, what you're going to be doing, and if you'll just plan it out for yourself. Because that's what you're given to do, to choose. He didn't say anything about work. God, Jesus told you, my Father does all the work, all of it. You don't have to do any of it. Just choose this day. And he says, if you turn to me, I'll turn to you. But if you deny me, I will deny you also, because it's the one. That's what Jesus said. I and my Father are one, even as you and I are one. He's always talking about the one. One body, one mind, one spirit, and Father of all. This is the foundation. This is where you start. You start to change by feeling yourself to be the change. Isn't that it?
That is it. That is it. And I'm glad that you said that, seeing yourself being the change. I know that that's not easy for many of us because we think that who we are at the moment is fixed. Would you agree?
Yeah. Actually, what you're really told is stop being so hard on yourself. Just relax. Learn to relax. If you like I said, you don't get in heaven until you stroll in. You don't fight your way in. You stroll in. He told you, just relax. Be still. I mean, that's where the miracles are, isn't it? It's a miracle, isn't it? Or nothing is. Because where did it come from? It came from God. Well, that's a miracle, isn't it?
That's true. And you said something. You said in heaven, you either stroll in or you don't get in. Heaven is a state of consciousness that we're to be mindful of. And so we're fashioning our heaven or our hell by, as Mr. Lindell said earlier, by what direction we're thinking. Would you agree?
That's it. What you're paying attention to has your life. Are you paying attention to something that's wonderful, or are you paying attention to something that's terrible? Because it has your life. What you're thinking feelingly about day in and day out, moment by moment, is your world of experiencing. So, certainly, you can choose better than what you're already experiencing. There's always more. And what I have discovered is that there's so much being offered, and it's not even being looked at. And you're told that it is as within, so without. So what are you doing within yourself? What are you thinking about? Because, like I said, worrying is the opposite of faith. And it says without faith, it is impossible to please him. And it's also impossible to please yourself because you keep denying yourself. God's not denying you anything. God is not denying you anything. He gave you the choice, and he just backed off and let you choose it. And if you don't like it, we're told very plainly, they themselves are makers of themselves. So what are you making of yourself? What are you making of these conversations we're having? Because they're the answer you're looking for, but you have to show up and participate in experiencing for yourself first person. And if that's what you really want, if you're looking to know first person, then listen to what's being said, because we're telling you, you are first person. You're the only begotten. Everyone is an only begotten. There's no two alike, so you're an only begotten and a child of God, and you're told by God that you're God. I mean, if God made you, then there it is. Feel after it for yourself, but you do have to show up to feel after it. Don't you?
You do. And you ask the question, what are you making? Now, many of you will say, well, I don't know. Only thing you have to do is look at the fruit of your life presently. If it's not to your choosing, if it's not to your liking, you simply need to begin to change your thoughts and change your world. Now, for many of you, you're going to say, that sounds super simple, DeCarlo. Let me explain. The change doesn't happen instantaneously. Well, it does, but you have to stay on the path of the change. As Mr. Lindell stated earlier, you have to persevere. That has to become your new norm, your new mindset. As wealth, for example, becomes your new mindset, you'll start clothing your world in wealth. As a relationship becomes your new mindset, you'll start clothing your world, prepping it for that new relationship. If it's health, that becomes your new mindset. As you stay healthy, becomes your mindset, your lifestyle. This is not something you do haphazardly and say after end of a month or 2 months or even a year, this stuff doesn't work. It has to become your lifestyle. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's right. You know, they're not considering how hypnotized, mesmerized that they are from the ongoing drama. And it's always right there with you because it's been with you for years and years and years. And this is new. I mean, it's not really new, but it's just rarely used. And that's the thing. You have the power. That's the power. Not a power, not a little power. You're operating the power. So every word must be accounted for. What are you saying to yourself, suggesting to yourself, morning, noon, and night, in a thought? Because it may only just be a quick thought. But you see, it still has to be accounted for. I mean, you may think it was nothing, but it still gets an accounting for. So if you're not paying attention to what you're thinking and feeling, that you know that you're choosing directly what you're going to be experiencing, it's always up to you. You have to make a decision that you're going to watch it, or you're just going to let it go as it's been going on and on and on. Because listen to this. Your world is coming through you, not to you. You're told not to judge by appearances, because that would mean that it's coming to you. But it isn't. It's coming through you. And that's what I'm doing here. This messages are coming through me, not from me. Because other than that, no, it comes through you. Believe me, it always comes through you. As you think you are. That's it, isn't it?
It is. Somebody had reached out to me recently because the message started coming through her. She started being prompted about things and started experiencing things beyond her own ability. And she was somewhat concerned because she hadn't experienced this before. And I told her, you go with the flow. I said, when Spirit's speaking through you, just allow Spirit to do so, and you go with the flow and watch the end results. Do you agree?
Look, here's what we all can agree on. There's only God. I mean, straight out, he told you, there's only God. So what are you concerned about? What are you fearing? God did not give man the spirit of fear. God did not give man the spirit of sickness. He learned these. But you can unlearn these if you'll take the time and invest yourself in yourself to sit in the silence and really think about what you're thinking about most of the time. Because right there is exactly the problem, and right there is exactly the cure of that problem if you'll focus. You have to focus. That's what you're being told to do. When you're told to go into silence, you're told to go in the closet, close the door, and when you're alone, speak to your Father which is in heaven. Now, you're not being alone if you're thinking about something on the without. Then you're not being alone. You have all of those ideas and attitudes and that with you of other people or other things that are happening in your life. But the point is, be alone. Be still and know that I'm God. I'm right here with you. Never going to leave you. Feel after me and you'll find me because I'm right here with you. Talk to me. You told, did you receive not because you ask not, or that you're asking amiss. And you say, well, I pray all the time. Well, Yeah, actually you are praying all the time. And that usually is what is making the problem how you're praying, is because it's with you always. You have to shove it aside, all the outside stuff, for moments, just moments. It's not going to go anywhere. It'll be there. All your problems and griefs will all be there when you leave the closet, because it takes time for things to change, but the time it takes is the time it takes you to change. That's the difference. You have to do the changing. After all, you're given to do so that you can do so. You're told to do so. Why not try so? I mean, you're told, feel after him and you'll find him. Well, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? What do you want to have? Feel after it and you'll have it. Isn't that the way it works?
That's the way it works. And I believe that most people miss the voice of God because it sounds much like their own voice. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah. He's right inside of you. You understand? He's in your head, too. People tell you, you got to get out of your own head. Well, no, it just depends on what you're packing in. Some people have a brain like the hoarders. They have so much crammed in there, they don't have any space for anything useful. But really, I mean, seriously, you're told very simply that as you think, you are. Now, if you just watch what you're thinking, not judge it. I don't want you beating yourself up. Don't be judging. Just monitor what you're thinking feelingly about generally most of the time and see what that would equate in your experiencing. And if you don't like it, well, then stop it and choose again. And that's what you're told. If you didn't choose right, well, choose again. There was no number of how many times you could choose, was there?
No, there wasn't. He gave 70 times 7, but that really meant eternity.
Yes. Well, come on. You have the ball in your court. He told you, choose. Okay, when that word switches you from what you were to what you want to be, just that word, choose. You understand that?
Expound on that.
Well, that's it. Look, what you're saying is what you're going to be doing. That's it. You're thinking ahead of your evidence. So what are you saying? Because that's going to be what you'll be experiencing in your future. Maybe not tomorrow or the next day or next week or a year, but every vision has its appointed hour, and it will ripen. All you have to do is just stay connected with yourself and watch what you're saying and thinking and feeling in yourself, because that's going to decide what you're going to receive, because you can talk yourself into or out of something in a moment, isn't it?
It's true. I want to go back to what you just said a moment ago. You said every vision has its own appointed hour. And for years when I heard that, what I thought about was the vision that the prophet put out, the vision that the great teacher put out, the vision that somebody other than myself put out. Now what I've come to understand and realize is that every vision is every imaginal thought. So every imaginal thought has its own appointed hour. What are your thoughts?
Right. That's right. In other words, it has to be accounted for. If you said it, you'll experience it. You got time to change your mind, though. But you have to exercise it because you thought about it. You see, every thought actually is looking toward you for life. Is it something you want to give life to? Is it something you want to invest yourself in? If not, drop it. That's the whole thing. Is if you find yourself thinking negatively, drop it and turn positive. It's only a thought, isn't it?
I love it. I love that you said that it was only a thought. We had a conversation in the Facebook group, and it was just about that. Thoughts have no power. So, as Mr. Lindell just stated, it's only a thought, so you can actually take an existing thought and change it immediately. I will even challenge you to make a game of it. Think about something and then shift what it is that you're thinking about to something totally different. We do it anyway all day, anytime. So since we do it anyway, begin making a game of it so that you can begin exercising that muscle called the imagination or the kingdom of heaven within you. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's it. If you just stick to the very simple things that Scripture is sharing with you, that as you think you are, and I know it's repeated over and over, but I know people run off at the mouth about things that they actually don't know anything about, and they shouldn't even be involved in because it's none of their business. And I know that because I was involved in the same thing. I was making decisions, and I was blaming this one and that one for whatever, but it won't work. It doesn't work. If it isn't working, change it, and you're given to do so. God gave you choice. Change your mind, change your world. That's simple. You keep it simple, you'll remember it. If you remember it, you'll probably do it. And all you have to do is start. That's all. All you need to do is start. Because if you'll start seriously, feeling after the better that you want, and stick with it for a while, you'll get caught up. The fever to know, the desire to know more about what it is you're doing is with you right here. All you have to do is just be quiet and think feelingly about what we're talking about, because it's your life. We're talking about your life, your everydayness, right here, right now. And you have the choice. Choose better. That's what you're here to do, to be a better director of your own thought. Isn't that what it is?
That's exactly what it is. And in saying that, you made a mention, you said if it's not working, change it. I know that many of you struggle with that because you say, well, you guys make it seem a lot easier than it is. The changing of the thought is the first step, and that tends to be easier than getting body lifestyle to follow. But when you get your thoughts right, the life will follow. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It is. It's following you right now. It's doing what you're doing. And what are you doing? You're thinking, feeling like. Do you know about what? Because that's what you're doing. See, you're on all the time. There's no stop. Even into the dream world. You can take it right into the dream world with you. So you're on all the time. That's something you want to really remember, that you're on every word, even if there's no one around you, and you're all by yourself. What you're saying, what you're thinking about, is you making up your everydayness in the future, or that feeling after worse than anything that you have been experiencing that you'll wind up experiencing, because it's as you think you are. Just remember that. As you think you are, you be, you do. Isn't that what happens?
That's exactly what happens. So as we're closing, heaven is within you. What would you say to the listener?
Let it out. Let it expand. That's what this is all about. What we were talking about, the expansion, right? It's in you. Let it loose and let it expand. You see, it's what you're focused on, isn't it?
It is.
Then focus on the expansion in you, and it happens. You're told, seek, and you shall find. You shall find. That's God telling you, you shall find. Why would He tell you that if you couldn't do it? So you can. You can choose better than the best. Do so and stick with it, right?
Stick with it, absolutely. Sir, it's been a pleasure.
Been a pleasure. Thank you.
We'll talk to you later. Have a great one, sir.
Thank you. You too.